everybody. I just really want to kind of say thanks to James for kind of talking about B Corp. So I think a lot of what I was going to discuss, James, there's lots of things that James already talked about, which I'm not going to talk about again. I think the big question for me, we're an 11-year-old business. We've been going, and we formed out of the idea that we wanted to become a stakeholder business. I think the interesting thing is we didn't know that stakeholder was a word back 11 years ago. That was something that we've discovered along the way. It's been a really interesting journey over the last 11 years. And I think for us, this B Corp journey is not something that we've just suddenly decided to do. It's almost been a natural progression in terms of almost like an evolution of our business over an 11-year period. So I think this is a question that we started asking ourselves really about 6 years ago. What is a business for? What's it there for? What's its purpose? I was a major shareholder. My previous business partner left 6 years ago, and we decided to go on a bit of a journey. We're a self-managing business. That's something that we've been doing over the last 6 years. There are other changes which I'll come on to later. But primarily, we knew that being a business was not just about making money. It wasn't about the value for me as a major shareholder. I think, to cover what James also talked about, one of my bugbears is this Companies Act. I've noticed the bill that you put forward. I think this whole idea of primacy of shareholders is just a really broken system. Again, Double was really formed of three original shareholders. That's now evolved. Later this year, we're also becoming an employee-owned business, so all of my shares are being sold to a trust. So there are many pillars to becoming a good business, and actually I think that whole governance piece around how business is operating needs to change. I'm just interested, this presentation's got some odd things in it in terms of the presentation, because it's been converted from a live web piece which will get shared after the presentation. So what was our starting principle? I think, as I said earlier, we didn't even realise that we wanted to be a multi-stakeholder business in the term that B Corp defines it. I came from a big German business. I learned everything I know about financial success and running a good business from the German way. As you can imagine, stereotypically, it was a brilliant business. But it was brilliant at making money. It wasn't brilliant at nurturing people, relationships, and all of the, particularly I think with employees and suppliers. And we started the idea of Double in 2008. I was on a flight coming back from Italy from a business trip, and with a partner. And it was a 40-something crisis where me and the colleague just thought, Christ, we've got to do it better than this. And I think that's really ultimately the better for us was, well, what does better mean? I think, so that's better for us at that time was we have to consider our employees. We have to treat our customers and our suppliers with care and attention, all with the same care and attention. And that's really been true to our journey for the last 11 years. And I think just to give you a bit of context about what Double does, I think a real principle that we really believe in, again, this is not come out properly, but again, this is a live link, a Medium article. I think ultimately we just want to be useful. At the end of the day, retail design is an expertise thing that Double does, because my expertise and where I came from over the last 30 years. So just to give some context of why B Corp is really important to us and why it's, I say, almost essential that we move down this path. What are we useful at? We're a retail design business. What does that mean? Does anybody know what that is? No? So that is potentially the first shopping mall. So that is Trajan's Market, and they think it's probably about 100 BC. I think, to me, what it inspires in me, this is about the depth of retail in human history. As soon as human societies are formed and they come together, built trading partnerships, trading blocks, Retail has always been a thing. It will continue to always be a thing. It's always had an impact, probably positive and negative, considering the times that this was built in, and much like it does today. But the stories, the journey, and all of the things that have happened in these retail spaces. But now, the journey's got to change. Look at this one. This is a Westfield in London. It's a palace to retail. It's the world that we operate in. I think particularly interesting the Lush stores on the right-hand side. They have 900 stores around the world. Great brand, love the principles, love what they're about. But 900 stores. That's 900 things that got to get built, 900 things that use energy, 900 things that end up in a landfill at the end of their life. And much like clothing and all the goods that these brands sell, they all work on fashion cycles. Retail design has a fashion cycle. Generally tends to be between 5 and 10 years. It's getting slightly longer, probably more of a commercial imperative, the fact that a lot of brands don't have the money. The reality is that fashion cycle basically leads to that. And this is a conversation that I've been having with my staff in my previous life. It's a conversation we have all the time in and around what we do as a business. We design stuff fast, we design stuff to a budget, we design stuff to a brand's needs. Historically, very little care and attention has been applied to how this stuff is designed. We mix all sorts of shit together, and it gets glued, you can't recycle it, can't get broken down. What are you going to do? Are you going to bung it apart and stick it in a hole in the ground? That's ultimately, who needs an asteroid? At the end of the day, this is what we're doing. We're doing with our consumption, with the waste and the energy and all the things that we're using. We recognise that in the way that we run our business, that we've got to change this. So, again, as James said, the journey we've been on, and I think particularly strongly in the last 2 years, we started building measurement tools to measure our embodied carbon in terms of projects that we do. We're a design business, so what we design gets made by somebody, not us, we're not a manufacturer, but it's going to get made. So having a stakeholder that's the planning in a business, for us, this is the right time and the right place for us to put this in there in our consideration. We've also started, and this is a real big one, this Iroquois philosophy, if you considered what you do now, whether it's in your home, or within your businesses, in your life, in the cars you buy and you sell and you get bored with and then buy another one, if we consider the 7-generation principle, 7 generations, that's, say, 30 years for a generation by modern standards. That's 200 years. Can we possibly conceive of the impact that what we do in 200 years' time? But that's what we're trying to do, at least at some level, and think more circular, think more about reuse, rather than just what our clients generally do is capitally write off their investments that they've done after 3 years, and then they don't really care what happens to it at the end of its life. So going back to the idea of a better business, what is it? This is, if you haven't read this is an amazing book, it's a bit dry, it's written by an Oxford professor, but it says everything about why we need to change the structure of organisations and change the structure of capitalism. I think that's second sentence, and the purpose of the business is to producing profitable solutions for people and planet. It's okay to make money. You just have to consider why you're making it and what you're making it for. So for us, that's been a really big question in the lead up to why we went B Corp. What is fair? What's fair profit? These links are live links in the actual presentation. I don't know if anybody's ever read O'Varup's statement that he made in the 1970s. O'Varup are an architectural firm, and it is the most inspiring speech you can possibly hope to read, and it was made in the 70s. But I think it's about this reasonable prosperity. Reasonable for some people probably means lots of different things. Reasonable for a lot of people would mean excessive wealth, perhaps. But actually for us, that fairness, it's okay to make money, but it's what do we make that money for? And that's the question that we're now starting to ask. Again, I know there's lots of businesses here, and actually how many owners are here and directors? Okay, so there's a few. And that question, was a really hard question for us to ask. You know, can we be a force for good? You know, we design stuff, it gets made, it gets, you know, it has a natural cycle, it's going to, you know, it has an impact. You use resources, metal, steel, plastics, all the other kind of materials. But actually we felt we have to stand up for, we have to be measured. And the only relevant measure of that at the moment, I think, is the B Corp standard. And that's why we're doing this, and that's why we're going, you know, that's why we submitted yesterday for our verification. So, a bit of a practical thing about how do we do it. So that's really, that's the kind of the 11-year lead up to. So we had a camping day. We went away for 2 days, camped, and we talked about why we want to do it. And actually, there was a lot of healthy discussion about why, you know, should we do it? You know, is this going to impact our business? Is it going to impact our ability to make profit? And then discussions about what profit means. It was a tough, you know, it was a tough 2 days. We're a small business. Maybe for us it will be slightly easier than maybe a larger organisation. We're a very cohesive bunch, and we operate by collective leadership, and we also have a democratic governance structure. So our decision-making process, we don't have managers. We have, let's say, director owners, but again, everybody has power to influence the business. And actually, we decided to kind of move ahead with it, but it is bloody tough. Make no bones about it, it's taken us 12 months. We've been tough on ourselves. We've had a particularly systemised way of doing it. We've built tools, so we've built carbon measuring tools for our projects. We've built apps to measure our flights and our travel. We've built apps to measure ourselves through the process, keep ourselves time bound. You know, we're now building systems to make sure that we do this right going forward. You know, fingers crossed that this is something that we'll achieve in the next few months. Another thing to really strongly state, this is a permanent operational model change. This is permanent and it's forever. It's not a Scouts badge. It's not a Scouts merit badge that you buy, stick on your blazer. I think that's something we've realised through the journey, that actually we've had to change literally every single system in the business and every single operational paradigm by which we operate and how we measure ourselves. And I think particularly important is the fact that we recognise that everybody had to be involved. So we split the five sections up into 3 people. We have a lead for each one of those sections across the business. We have a primary lead, an overall accountable lead across the business. And this is a business that, you know, we're bloody busy all of the time anyway. So we've had to, you know, you have to consider this carefully when you bolt on to the top of your business, because it's not just about getting it, it's about doing it every day and improving. So those hard permanent changes, I think there are 3 kind of really critical things: the governance, the proving it, and the embedding practice. I think that governance change, the legal, the idea, this probably produced the most talk between, let's say, me and the other directors about the idea of changing legal articles. We're going to have to do it anyway to become an employee-owned business, but actually it's a really tough conversation. It shouldn't be, but it is. And that's something that we've now all agreed. We've now changed our governance structure in the last 4 months to help employee ownership and to help B Corp move forward, where everybody's involved. I think that proving it, very simply, do your assessment, measure everything, report on it, improve it, and then just keep doing it again and again and again and again. And that is a system change within an organisation. And that embedding practice, this is where I say we've built lots of tools across our business to help us do this. And I think, you know, we're a project management business basically, and that's been a really positive thing. So as a conclusion, you know, we're 11 years in the making. This isn't really just an overnight thing. This is something we chose to do. You know, it took us 12 months to complete. We were very excited. We popped a champagne cork yesterday, and because we submitted yesterday. So we're now into the verification process. I fully expect to get challenged, you know, by the process. You know, but what I would also say, if you do this, don't bullshit. Absolutely tell the truth. We've been very particular about only putting in, ticking the questions we can absolutely empirically prove that we've done and that we do. I think it'd be very easy to say, yeah, we kind of do it, yeah, but actually do you? And can you really prove it? So hopefully we'll get there very soon. We'll become part of this movement. As I said, this is all part of 3 pillars of self-managing B Corp and employee ownership later this year. You know, this is a fairly unusual thing. This is really my, you know, part of my legacy, I suppose, as a business owner. And really, it's also for people like Lisa, who's filming at me at the moment. So it's for the next generation and the people that I leave behind in the business to really have something strong to go forward. So, forgive me, this is meant as a challenge. Shouldn't this just be normal? I think, you know, if we had a goal, well, let's make B Corp obsolete. And that's it. Thank you very much.